I used to look at American politics and see that we blatantly copy them. We mirror them with what the conservative Republicans do in the US and what the conservatives do in the UK. It's almost copy and paste, but I never thought it was as bad. For example, Donald Trump came into office, and despite some people still thinking that he's there to drain the swamp, he put a woman who spent her entire career trying to destroy public education in charge of education. You can see where that went. Putting Scott Pruitt in charge of the EPA, despite the fact that several times Scott Pruitt has sued the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, for doing their job and stopping massive corporations like the ones that the Koch brothers own from polluting and poisoning local water supplies, local environments, and essentially killing people. Scott Pruitt's successor is exactly the same. Constantly, the people who have spent their careers destroying a particular area are in charge of that area, or someone who has no idea what they're doing, in the case of Jared Kushner and, well, the rest of his children. But again, I never thought that the UK was as bad as that. I didn't think that the UK Conservatives were quite so disgusting. Well, I was wrong. Plain and simple. Theresa May announced that she would put someone in charge of suicide prevention. This new angle that she's trying to win over with the public. And on the surface, yes, suicide is a massive issue. There's not just one reason for it. There's multiple reasons that would force someone into that position. One that I've gone over in the past is welfare, Department of Work and Pensions, how they treat people, the sanctions which stop people from being able to buy food. Esther McVey is guilty for a lot of deaths in this country, but so is every other politician who has voted to cut welfare. People like Jackie Doyle-Price. And this is the woman who is now in charge of suicide prevention in the UK, the new health minister. So again, we've got someone who actively encourages suicide in this country by her political actions, by taking away money from those who need it the most, is now in charge of trying to prevent suicides. And Theresa May freely admits, yeah, there's no actual budget for this. It's a title for the sake of giving a title. It's Theresa May trying to win over the public, saying, hey, that thing I did for the last 2 years, it's not actually benefited any of you. But, you know, I want another few years making multiple billions with me and my husband so that me and my wealthy friends can carry on eating in gold palaces while the rest of you peasants just starve to death. Hell, even our environmental minister, Michael Gove, refused to go to a climate change meeting that had actual climate change scientists. And this is just a few days after the UN stressing the massive importance of climate change. It's now predicted that in 2040 we will have a massive catastrophe. But Michael Gove isn't interested in going. Theresa May sure as hell isn't interested, because she's trying to start up more fracking sites across the country. And I say more fracking sites because we already have at least one further up north. It's funny that the BBC didn't really go on about that too much. There's a very clear thing that the people need to do in this country, and that is hold politicians accountable. If you come out and say all these fantastical things, like Theresa May has just said she's going to get rid of austerity now, why the hell didn't you do that for the last 2 years? Because austerity hasn't worked. The country's debt is over 100 times worse than when Labour handed over the reins to the Conservatives back in 2010. All we've had is death and suffering. This is no longer acceptable. This is no longer able to be common practice of just allowing politicians to lie. And I say this with politicians on the left and on the right. If they make a statement and it's false, call them out on it constantly. Never let them forget that they had the audacity to lie unashamedly to the United Kingdom. Because quite frankly, at the end of the day, it's not them who are going to suffer. It's the majority of the country. You know, the people that they don't actually care about.